The first signal came from deep space, a faint whisper that Earth's satellites almost missed. It was a pattern too perfect to be random, a rhythm like a heartbeat pulsing through the void. At first, scientists celebrated. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, contact with intelligent life. But excitement soon turned to fear when the signal changed. It wasn't a message, it was a warning. The pulse repeated 3 words in translation: prepare for cleansing. The aliens came fast. Their ships were enormous, black as night, covering the stars. They called themselves the Velkar Dominion, rulers of 1,000 conquered worlds. To them, humans were just another weak species to be erased or enslaved. Their leader, Lord Serath, stood before a galactic council and laughed when he saw the images of Earth's armies and ships. They still burn fuel, he mocked. They still fight with metal and fire. They are children playing with sticks. The Velkar attacked without mercy. Cities fell. Satellites burned. The sky turned red over dozens of nations as orbital strikes hit. Billions died in the first week. The surviving world leaders tried to surrender, but the Velkar ignored them. Weakness must be purged, Serath said. Humanity was finished, or so the galaxy thought. Then something changed. From the ashes of Earth rose a fury no one expected. When the aliens destroyed New Delhi, they didn't see the cameras capturing the last words of a dying soldier. If they think we're weak, they will learn what fire means. That video spread through every surviving human network. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians united. Underground bunkers became factories. Old satellites were reprogrammed. Even abandoned space stations were turned into weapons. The humans stopped running. They started fighting back. The first victory came when a small human ship, the Spirit of Dawn, ambushed a Velkar cruiser near Mars. Using nothing but modified mining lasers and a suicide attack, they managed to destroy it. The explosion was seen from orbit. Humanity cheered. The message was clear. Earth was not done yet. The Velkar, confused, sent more fleets, but humans were unpredictable. They hacked alien systems, stole their weapons, and built new hybrid machines. Within months, the Resistance fleet was born, a ragtag collection of stolen ships and fearless pilots. They called themselves the Burning Line. Wherever they went, flames followed. When the Velkar bombed a city, the Burning Line would strike back tenfold, turning entire enemy supply worlds into ash. Lord Serath grew furious. "How can a dying world fight like this?" he shouted. The other alien species of the galaxy watched in silence. They had all seen worlds fall to the Velkar. None had ever fought back. But humans were different. They didn't fight for conquest. They fought for survival, for revenge, for every child burned under alien fire. One by one, enslaved planets began to rise, inspired by human defiance. The galaxy started to change. On the anniversary of Earth's invasion, the humans launched Operation Phoenix, a direct strike on the Velkar capital world. It was madness. No species had ever dared to invade them, but humanity didn't care about odds anymore. They entered hyperspace with every stolen ship, every weapon they had built, every ounce of rage in their hearts. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Velkar homeworld was burning. Lord Serath's ship was found drifting in orbit, silent and broken. His last recorded words were simple: "We were wrong about them." The galaxy had witnessed something it would never forget. The species once called primitive had burned an empire to dust. And in the ruins, as smoke covered the stars, one human captain looked to the heavens and said, "Let them remember this. We are weak until we are angry." From that day forward, the galaxy learned a new rule: never provoke the fury of humankind. The fires of victory over the Velkar cruiser near Mars became a spark that refused to die. Across the shattered remains of Earth and its colonies, the survivors began to rebuild. Not homes, but war machines. Hidden bases deep beneath the oceans, inside mountains and on the dark sides of moons, became centers of resistance. Humanity had lost everything, but they had also lost their fear. They learned to fight with desperation, and desperation made them clever. Commander Elena Ward, once a scientist, now led what was left of the United Earth Defense. She spoke through a broadcast sent across all human networks. "We are not fighting for power. We are fighting for our right to exist. They burned our world, so we will burn their empire." Her voice became a symbol of hope. The aliens underestimated the human spirit. Every captured Velkar weapon was studied and modified. Human engineers found ways to combine alien plasma cores with human reactor tech, creating weapons that were unstable but devastating. They called them Fury cannons. The burning line grew, gathering ships from hidden yards and abandoned colonies. Soon, small human fleets began attacking supply routes, stealing energy cells and freeing enslaved species. Rumors spread through the galaxy, whispers of fire ships that came out of nowhere and vanished like ghosts. Other civilizations that had once bowed to the Velkar began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the humans could win. One night, as the burning line prepared for a major strike, a transmission was received from a distant world. It was from the Tavrians, a peaceful race the Velkar had enslaved for centuries. Their message was simple: we want to help. This was the first alliance humanity ever had in the stars. The Tavrians provided star maps and data about the Velkar supply worlds. With their help, humans planned their boldest attack yet, to cut the enemy's communication network across the sector. The mission was led by Captain Ryan Hale aboard the ship Iron Star. He was known for taking impossible risks. His plan was simple but deadly. The fleet would jump into Velkar territory, destroy the relay stations, and retreat before reinforcements arrived. But something went wrong. As soon as they arrived, dozens of Velkar warships surrounded them. It was a trap. Commander Hale looked at the radar and smiled grimly. "So they expected us," he said. "Then let's make them regret it." The humans fought like no other species had before. Even when surrounded, they refused to surrender. They overloaded reactors, rammed ships, and turned defeat into chaos. The battle lasted hours. Explosions lit up the void, and for every human ship lost, 2 Velkar cruisers fell. The Iron Star took heavy damage. Flames burned through the corridors, but Hale stayed at the controls. "As long as one ship stands, humanity fights," he shouted to his crew. With one final order, he rammed his ship into the largest Velkar carrier, igniting both in a blinding explosion. When the smoke cleared, the entire Velkar communication hub was gone. The humans had done it. They had cut off the enemy's command lines across half the galaxy. The price was heavy, but their courage became legend. The Tavrians sent a message across every free channel: the burning line burns brighter than ever. Back on Earth's ruins, Eleanor Ward watched the stars. She knew the Velkar would return in greater numbers, angrier than before. But now the galaxy had seen that humans could bleed their conquerors. She whispered to herself, "We may die tomorrow, but tonight we made the stars ours again." As word of the victory spread, more alien species began to rebel. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Velkar Empire began to crack. Humanity had lit a flame of rebellion that could no longer be contained. And in the darkness of space, that flame was only growing brighter. The galaxy had just begun to understand the true meaning of human fury. The destruction of the Velkar communication network sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Worlds once silent under Velkar control began to rise. From icy moons to desert colonies, enslaved species took up arms, following the example of humanity. But even as hope spread, the Velkar prepared for revenge. Their empire may have been wounded, but it was far from broken. In the deep void beyond the known systems, Lord Serath gathered his war council. "For they are not like the others," he growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "These humans fight like beasts. They burn everything they touch. If they want fire, we will drown them in it." Orders were sent to unleash the Velkar's most feared weapon, the Eclipse Forge, a massive war engine capable of destroying entire planets. It was hidden for centuries, known only in legends. Now it would be used to erase humanity from existence. Back on Earth's orbit, Commander Elena Ward received intercepted transmissions, hinting at a weapon so powerful that even the Velkar feared it. She gathered her top officers aboard the newly built flagship Vanguard. "If they're bringing something that can end worlds," she said firmly, "then we'll find it first." Scouts were sent across the void, searching for clues. One such scout, Lieutenant Noah Reyes, discovered strange energy readings near the dead star of Harthon. What they found there changed everything. An ancient structure not built by the Velkar, but by a race older than them, long extinct. The readings were identical to the energy patterns from the Eclipse Forge signals. Humanity realized the terrifying truth: the Velkar didn't build the weapon. They had only awakened it. Elena ordered a small strike team to investigate the ruins. When they arrived, they found tunnels filled with alien symbols and strange machines still humming with life. Deep inside, they uncovered an enormous core, pulsing with energy and whispering in a language no one could understand. Dr. Malik, the team's scientist, studied it and realized that this technology could bend matter and light itself. If they power this thing, he warned, it won't just destroy planets. It could collapse entire systems. The team quickly transmitted the data to the Vanguard, but before they could leave, Velkar drones swarmed the ruins. A fierce battle erupted. The humans fought bravely, but the Velkar had arrived to protect their secret. Lieutenant Reyes managed to send the last signal before being surrounded. Tell her, they're not gods. This weapon isn't theirs. It's older, and it's waking up. Then his signal went silent. The team was lost, and the ruins were destroyed in an explosion that lit up the entire star system. Elena received the message in silence. Humanity had lost brave souls again, but they now knew what they were facing. The Velkar were about to unleash something beyond comprehension. Determined not to let it happen, Elena gathered the leaders of the Burning Line and their allies. The Tavrians joined, along with two other liberated species, the Core and the Lethians. Together they formed the Coalition of Fire. Their goal: find and destroy the Eclipse Forge before it could be activated. But there was a problem. They didn't know where it was hidden. All they had were fragments of data, and one terrifying prediction from Dr. Malik's research. The Forge will awaken in 13 days. 13 days to stop a galactic apocalypse. 13 days before everything burned. The humans and their allies prepared for the greatest mission of their lives. Factories worked non-stop. Pilots trained in simulators for battles they might not survive. Soldiers carved names of their lost families into their armor. Across the stars, beacons lit up, not of surrender, but of defiance. As the final night before the operation began, Elena stood on the bridge of the Vanguard and looked at the starfield. They thought we were weak, she said quietly. Let's show them what weak can do when cornered. The fleet engines roared to life. Thousands of ships aligned across the void, forming the Burning Line once more. This time they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to stop the end of everything. And as the fleet vanished into hyperspace, one thing became certain. The galaxy was about to witness humanity's fury like never before. 13 days. That was all humanity had before the Velkar activated the Eclipse Forge, the weapon that could erase entire systems. The Burning Line and their new allies from the Coalition of Fire moved across the galaxy like a storm, searching for the Forge's location. Every day counted, every hour mattered. Commander Elena Ward barely slept. She stood at the heart of the flagship Vanguard, watching thousands of ships prepare for war. Around her, voices filled the command deck. Human officers, Tavrian analysts and core tacticians, all working together for one purpose: survival. On the 7th day, the breakthrough came. A Tavrian scout ship intercepted a coded signal near the dead sector of Varnis, a region filled with collapsing stars and radiation storms. The signal matched the frequency of the Eclipse Forge. That's it, Elena said. That's where they're hiding it. Without delay, she ordered the fleet to prepare for Operation Eclipse, a full-scale assault on Varnis. It was a suicide mission, but no one hesitated. They had all seen what the Velkar could do, and they would rather die fighting than let the galaxy burn. As the fleet jumped through hyperspace, the darkness of Varnis appeared before them, a broken system glowing with red suns and drifting debris. In the middle of it all was something massive, a floating ring of black metal surrounded by energy storms. The Eclipse Forge. It looked alive, pulsing like a beating heart, its surface covered in glowing runes from the ancient builders who had created it. Around it, hundreds of Velkar warships stood guard. It was a fortress, and the moment the humans arrived, alarms filled the void. "Multiple enemy fleets incoming," shouted the radar officer. Elena didn't flinch. "Then let's give them a reason to remember us. Launch all squadrons." The Burning Line exploded into action. Fighters streaked through the darkness, weaving between laser fire and plasma storms. Explosions painted the void with light. Human and alien pilots fought side by side, shouting victory cries through the comms. The Velkar were disciplined, but they didn't understand madness, and the humans fought like they had nothing left to lose. Amid the chaos, the Vanguard led the charge straight toward the Forge. Elena's plan was simple: Destroy the main power conduits before it could be activated. Dr. Malik, now coordinating from the ship's science bay, shouted updates. Those runes aren't just decoration. They're energy channels. If we hit them all at once, it might collapse the structure. Elena nodded. Then we'll hit them all at once. The fleet split into smaller groups, each heading toward one of the forge's glowing nodes. The core used heavy plasma torpedoes, while Tavrian interceptors protected the bombers. Human Marines prepared boarding pods to land directly on the forge. One of those pods carried Captain Jace Rylan, a fearless soldier who had lost his family when Earth fell. His voice came through the comm, "For Earth, for everyone." Then his pod launched into the storm. The boarding teams fought their way through alien defenses on the forge's surface. Inside, they found tunnels of black metal humming with power. Strange lights crawled along the walls like living veins. Jace and his squad reached the main core chamber, a vast sphere of energy suspended in mid-air. "This is it," he said. "Plant the charges." But before they could, the air shimmered, and a massive Velkar warlord appeared, armored in glowing red. It was Commander Varkal, Serath's right hand. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You think your fire can challenge the stars?" The battle was brutal. Jace and his team fought with everything they had. Plasma blades clashed, bullets tore through the air, and explosions shook the forge. One by one his soldiers fell, but Jace pushed forward. Gravely wounded, he managed to arm the detonator. "You should have stayed away from Earth," he whispered, pressing the final code. The explosion ripped through the forge's core, sending shockwaves across space. On the Vanguard, alarms blared. "Massive energy surge," Malik shouted. "The forge is collapsing!" Helena watched as the giant structure began to tear itself apart. Velkar ships fled, their formations breaking apart in panic. But the victory came at a cost. Half of the human fleet was gone, and the Vanguard itself was caught in the blast wave. "Brace for impact," Elena ordered. The ship was thrown across the void, systems failing. When the light faded, the forge was gone. In its place was only silence and drifting wreckage. The Velkar fleet had retreated, but at a terrible cost to both sides. As the survivors gathered what was left of their forces, Elena looked out at the ruined stars. "We stopped their weapon," she said softly, "but this isn't over. Serath will come for us himself now." In the darkness of deep space, far from the battle, Lord Serath watched the destruction of the forge from his command throne. His burning eyes narrowed. "They destroyed a god's machine," he hissed. "Then let them face the wrath of gods." And as his massive flagship turned toward human space, the final war for the galaxy had already begun. The destruction of the Eclipse Forge shook the entire galaxy. To most, it was proof that the Velkar were not invincible. To the Velkar, it was an unforgivable insult. Lord Serath, enraged by the loss of his greatest weapon, swore vengeance. His massive warship, the Obsidian Throne, led the largest armada ever assembled. Thousands of ships armed with planet-killing cannons. His voice echoed through the Dominion's communication networks. "Erase them all. Burn every human world. Leave nothing behind." The galaxy trembled as the Velkar prepared for total war. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the battle near Varnis, the survivors of the burning line struggled to recover. The Vanguard was badly damaged, its hull torn open, but Commander Elena Ward refused to abandon it. "We're not finished yet," she said, limping through the bridge. Around her, wounded crew members worked silently, patching systems with whatever parts they could find. The coalition forces were scattered, their numbers halved. Yet, even in their weakened state, their spirit was stronger than ever. Dr. Malik and the Tavrian scientist Lyra discovered that the explosion of the forge had released a strange energy signature, one that was slowly spreading through nearby systems. "It's not just destruction," Malik explained. "That weapon's core changed the fabric of space. We can use it." He proposed something daring, a trap for Serath's armada. If they could lure the Velkar into the unstable energy field left behind by the forge's explosion, they could ignite it, creating a blast powerful enough to destroy the entire fleet. But there was one problem. The Vanguard would have to stay behind to trigger the detonation manually. Elena listened in silence. She knew what that meant. "If this works, we end the war," Malik said. "If it fails, humanity dies." Elena looked out the window at the damaged fleet and whispered, "Then we make it work." She called a meeting of all remaining commanders, human, Tavrian, Core, and Lethian. "We've come too far to run now," she told them. "They want to erase us because we make them afraid. Let's show them they were right to fear us." The plan was set. It would be called Operation Inferno. Days later, Sarath's armada appeared on the edge of human space. The sky turned black as hundreds of warships entered orbit around Mars. Their weapons glowed with crimson light. The burning line gathered for one final stand. Every ship, no matter how damaged, took formation around the vanguard. The coalition fleets arrived too, ready to fight beside humanity to the last breath. On the bridge, Elena watched the enemy appear on her screens, endless waves of ships blotting out the stars. "So this is it," she said quietly. "The day humanity burns, or the day the galaxy remembers us forever." The battle began. Plasma fire lit up the void. The obsidian throne led the assault, tearing through the first human lines. Dozens of ships were destroyed within minutes, but the humans didn't retreat. They fought with reckless fury, crashing damaged ships into enemy carriers, turning debris into weapons. The Tavrians provided cover fire, while Core heavy cruisers rammed Velkar destroyers head-on. Every explosion shook the stars. Sarath watched from his throne, smiling coldly. "So much rage for such fragile creatures," he said. But then something unexpected happened. His ships began receiving false signals, fake distress calls, sensor ghosts, and shifting coordinates. The humans had hacked the Dominion's communication systems again, sowing chaos through their ranks. Confusion spread and formations broke apart. It was exactly what Elena had planned. As the battle raged, the vanguard moved closer to the Forge's energy field. Its engines glowed faintly, barely holding together. Balik worked frantically to align the reactor's output with the unstable energy patterns. "Almost there," he said. "Just a few more minutes." But the obsidian throne was closing in fast. Its cannons locked onto the vanguard. Eleanor stood on the bridge, eyes steady. "Hold the line," she ordered. "No one breaks." The obsidian throne fired. The blast tore through space, hitting the vanguard directly. The ship shuddered violently, alarms screaming. Fires spread across the decks. Crew members fell, but the ship stayed in position. "We're in range!" Malik shouted. Elena smiled faintly through the smoke. "Then let's end it." She turned to her crew. "You've done enough. Get to the escape pods." None of them moved. "We're staying," her first officer said. "Together." Eleanor placed her hand on the reactor control panel. "For Earth," she whispered. "For all of us." Then she gave the final command. The Vanguard's reactor went critical, merging with the unstable field. A blinding light filled space as the Forge's residual energy detonated. The explosion spread faster than light, consuming everything in its path. Velkar ships disintegrated. The obsidian throne cracked open, its hull melting in the firestorm. Lord Serath's final roar echoed across every frequency before vanishing into silence. When the light faded, the stars were quiet again. The burning line was gone. The Velkar Empire was shattered. Across the galaxy, billions watched the transmissions of the final battle, a symbol of human defiance that had burned brighter than any sun. And somewhere in the quiet void, a single escape pod drifted. Inside it, Elena Ward opened her eyes to see the faint glow of distant stars. She smiled weakly and whispered, "We did it." Then she looked toward Earth's direction and added, "Now the galaxy will remember." The galaxy was silent. The war that had consumed entire systems was finally over. The Velkar Dominion, once the most feared empire in the stars, was nothing but ashes scattered across space. The Eclipse Forge was gone, the Obsidian Throne destroyed, and Lord Serath's voice silenced forever. Yet even in victory, humanity had paid a terrible price. Of the thousands of ships that formed the burning line, only a handful survived. Planets still burned, and the stars near Varnis glowed faintly with the light of the great explosion that ended the war. For days, the survivors searched the debris fields, hoping to find any sign of life. The coalition fleets, once scattered and broken, slowly regrouped under a single flag, the banner of the Coalition of Fire. They had fought together, bled together, and now they vowed to rebuild together. Among the drifting wreckage, a Tavrian ship found a small escape pod, human-made, its hull scorched and cracked. Inside was Commander Elena Ward, barely alive but breathing. When they brought her aboard, the crew stood in silence. The woman who had led humanity from the ashes now lay before them, scarred but victorious. When Eleanor awoke days later, she found herself in a med bay surrounded by Tavrians, core engineers and human soldiers. Her first words were quiet but steady. "Did we win?" The Tavrian captain nodded with a faint smile. "You did more than win, Commander. You changed everything." News of the Velkar's fall spread like wildfire. Worlds that had been enslaved for generations rose up and declared freedom. The name human became a symbol across the stars, not of weakness but of unbreakable will. Weeks later, a massive gathering was held on the Tavrian capital world. It was the first Galactic Council of Free Worlds, formed to ensure that no empire would ever rise to enslave the galaxy again. Representatives of dozens of species attended, and at the center of it all stood Eleanor Ward, leaning on a metal cane, her uniform burned and patched. When she spoke, the entire hall went silent. "We were called weak," she began softly. "We were hunted, broken, and nearly erased. But when humanity was pushed to the edge, we did what we always do. We fought back. We stood together, and we burned away the darkness." The hall erupted in thunderous applause. Even species that had once feared or hated humanity now bowed their heads in respect. The coalition of fire became a new symbol of unity, a promise that strength would never again be used for domination, but for protection. Ships from different worlds began working together, rebuilding what the war had destroyed. Human engineers shared their technology freely, and Tavrian scientists taught others how to harness clean energy. Slowly, the galaxy began to heal, but even in peace, the scars remained. Eleanor often stood alone by the viewing ports, watching the stars. She thought of those who never came back, Jace Rylan, Lieutenant Reyes, and the countless others who gave everything so that others could live. "We burned the galaxy to save it," she once said quietly. "Let's make sure we never have to do it again." Years passed and humanity began to explore once more, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The name Burning Line lived on, not as a fleet of war, but as a legend. Children across the galaxy learned their story, how humans rose from defeat and showed the stars what fury really meant. Statues were built on countless worlds, showing a human soldier holding a torch, the flame of hope that never died. Eleanor Ward eventually returned to Earth. The planet was scarred, but life had begun to grow again. Green fields stretched where cities once burned, and rebuilt towers reached toward the sky. She walked through the ruins of the old command center and placed a hand on a cracked wall that still bore the words, once painted by soldiers, "We are weak until we are angry." In her final years, Eleanor wrote her memoirs, The Fire That Saved the Stars. It became the most read text in the galaxy, a reminder of what courage and unity could achieve. And when she passed away, her body was buried not on Earth, but in orbit around the sun, her tomb inscribed with a single line, "Here rests the woman who lit the stars with fire." Centuries later, long after the wars had faded into legend, travelers passing through the Milky Way would still see a faint, glowing nebula near Earth's system, red and gold, shaped like a burning line across the stars. Locals called it the Furies Path, and every time someone looked at it, they remembered the day when the galaxy learned the truth, that humans were never weak. They were the spark that turned darkness into light,